Hey everybody, my name's Kevin. Making this video today, we're gonna be diving into something cool, something useful, super useful. It's how to use AI as your dungeon master or as a co-DM for maybe your next D&D, TRPG, one-shot or short campaign. If you ever wanted to try this before, or just need help running your games, I hope you find something useful out of this. Before we get started, AI is a tool just like any other tool that a DM has at their disposal. Play group can use this to run like as a sole DM, or as a DM, you can use this as a co-DM, like as an assistant. Or if you're a player looking to learn how to DM, you can use it for that as well. Um, so things about AI, this should complement what you can already do or what you want to learn from it. Like any game, there is a subtle or direct improv to be able to keep up with AI in addition to being able to keep up with your players. And up front, AI does have limitations. Maybe not as much as it did when it first came out. Hallucinations, stalls, and loops. I'll be talking about that towards the end. Um, and hallucinations are going to be like off topic responses. Stalls are going to be when it gets stuck, or loops when it's repeating the same actions. And again, I'm going to be handling that in a separate section. Um, so the AI I'm using today is ChatGPT as a free user. I'm not going to be using anything like coded or programmed into my account. So I logged out of my account to try to do this from scratch to show you. So this will be from a free access. So I'm just going to hit the stay logged out button here. So the first thing you want to do is we're going to get the DM to recognize, like, hey, in the mindset that you're trying to get into. So we're going to be talking about details, basically your setup basics. Um, as a DM, it can be incredibly flexible as an AI. And as a co-DM, you want to look at it that it's an endlessly patient, like, ask all your questions that you want to learn about. All you need is a few basic things. In my experience, like I've used this process um, to basically just get started. So right now we're going to identify a few things. It's going to be adventure length of, like, if you're trying to do just one session, that's what I usually use it for, like as the sessions go through. You could even plan out like a mini campaign. Um, and like some of the things I talked about before, like stalling and looping, that's when you get into, like, if you're using it for hours and hours on end. It can help in a pinch, but so for example, as a we're basically, before we start getting it to respond to us, we're gonna try to plug in the viewpoint that we're trying to get from it. So as a whatever edition you want to play, I'm gonna switch this to 5e for now. As a 5e D&D DM, draft a one-shot adventure, and the haunted forest, whatever setting you want it to be in, with a focus on exploration and mystery. Um, so that can be a basis. We'll get it in a second. The next part is going to be play. I think this is the biggest part where I've had where you get the success from. You want to tell the AI party details about who you're trying to DM for. So party details, class, level, and backgrounds, and the number of players. Um, and I use this to really make custom to what the players are trying to get out of the session. So the party consists of 3 players. I made these 3 up, and the background can get really creative in terms of trying to plug in story details to make it applicable to what the background is. Um, so the haunted forest and a mixture of mystery and stuff. That's gonna be setting the tone. So whatever system that you're trying, like whatever kind of thing you and your players are trying to go for, um, we're gonna put in a mix of dark fantasy, mystery, suspenseful atmosphere. You can swap it out for whatever you're trying to go for. Shopping experience, you want it to be mystery, horror, was it cyberpunk, whatever you're trying to go for. The next part is going to be establishing who is going to be handling what. So players will roll their own die, and the AI, you can just put, because you're talking to the AI, you will roll for NPCs. And I put or because you can either have it roll for the monsters or tell you what monster blocks you can use. And I have two kind of setups for this for monsters. Here we go. Players roll their dice for skill checks, combats, and savings throw. You will roll for monsters, or you will provide the monsters, like AI provide me the monsters. And if it's something you're trying to customize, reflavor, repaint, whatever terminology you want to use for, um, is basically establishing what's the closest official stat block to maybe like a rules book that you have that you can use, or something that it can find through um, like the closest official stat blocks, or you can even ask it, hey, make me a custom stat block. In my experience as a DM, I usually try to go for finding the closest stat block, kind of dialing it up or down a bit. I do use stuff straight from scratch, so it's really whatever your fancy is for it. So now that I'll just put that the AI is going to roll for the monsters and NPCs. The last bit is going to be the critical part. So you're just telling it to just absorb these details for now, and I'll guide you next. Because you're basically establishing like, hey, this is a viewpoint I want you to have for the questions or like the things I'm about to prompt you on in the future. Um, and there we go. All right. So the response that we're getting, they've absorbed the detail, and they understand the party composition, that the players will be doing their roles, and the DM, the AI, is going to be rolling for them. So, what next? Section 2 is going to be like the bread and butter of the sessions. Once the AI is ready, you can just use simple prompts to control, and it's more so just following the pacing. And for me, there's three core sections. It's the hook and the introduction, setting the scene, introducing NPCs, introducing the party to the adventure, and presenting what the problem could be. Second part can be conflict and exploration. That's gonna, yeah, and the last one is gonna be climax and resolution. But I kind of see it like for storytelling, like Act 1, 2, and 3. So if you're watching a movie or TV show, reading a book, and the pacing is going to be moving like, hey, begin the adventure. All right, start the conflict. Act 2. All right, let's get into the climax. So some example text that you can use. Begin the adventure by introducing the first scene and how the players arrive into the scene. All right, and then we get the road to Hollowmere. And if it gets into like, there's things that you can start to dial back and kind of get into how you like to get the information. You can say, that's too much detail, or that's great. And you can kind of go back and forth with your players, and it's all about improv, kind of just leaning into what you like and what you don't like. That's too much detail. Dial it down in the future. And then a narrow dirt path leads into the village. You can just make out the silhouette of a stone village near the village square. What do you do? That's too much. Dial it down in the future. The party wants to approach. Okay, so the three of you step off into the road towards the edge. Mud squelches underfoot, and the air feels colder. What do you want to do? And you can kind of go back and forth about what the parties want to do. And I was like, oh, do I see anybody? And introduce an NPC. And stand by for combat encounter. And you can start kind of getting NPCs and do a lot of trial and error. The party wants to fight. Then they'll start getting. It should populate some form of stat block. Um, yeah. So the Gauntlet Man snaps his lantern up, bares his teeth, and rolled initiative. So he's got 12 for the initiative, and you can start start getting your party members to roll initiative. And then now we're like in a combat. And then you can say, all right, after combat goes through, you can roll it, like not even paying it, like not even getting into AI. Like if you can pull up the uh, NPC stat block here. Yeah, and essentially, I mean, you could even like you don't have to be attached at the hip to the AI. It just kind of gives you some good tips. Um, Other than that, you can get into you can put in their roles, or you can just cut AI out, do the combat as is, finish. Um, I ran combat. They survived. NPC got knocked out. All right, so he collapses, blood mixing in the muddy street. What do? Um, as the quiet returns, you notice a faint echo of something moving deeper in the village, a dragging sound. At this point, you can uh, establish conflict and exploration. Then it can start prompting some skill checks. You can, if they don't have skill checks, you can ask them. But it does at least introduce like tidbits that you can kind of run with, and then you can go back and forth with what the party is trying to do, transcribing a summary about what they're aiming for, and then all right, and move to like after few minutes, few hours of going back and forth, move to climax and resolution combat or final combat. All right, and then they get into that you find a journal. Climax is this Church of Saint Vorin, and so the Hollow's voice, corrupted priest combat. And if you don't want to reference a custom stat block, you can just say, "What's the official?" I'm sorry. What's the closest official stat block I can use? And if you have like a monster manual on standby, access to your favorite online monster library, it says, "Well, this was it the corrupted priest? The closest one you could use, a priest." But you want to raise the HP to about 60, maybe add a necrotic feature. If for channel divinity, I don't think that's going to apply for a priest. Maybe I think it's thinking of a cleric. Then we get into hallucination. I don't have the priest pulled up, but if it's like, and it gets into like the experience that you have, like channel divinity is a cleric, not a priest, unless the priest does have it. Um, you can either ignore it, or you can say, "Hey, the channel divinity is not for that." Or you can use a cult fanatic, and then spells, and then you kind of want to. It tells you how you can kind of boost it up to make it kind of balanced for the party. Um, and then you can now you have the stat block to use. Now you can flip to your book. Um, my experience, usually it's in a good ballpark. Um, but other than that, if the combat happens, um, it rolls an initiative. You do it outside of AI. You can just use it as a reference tool. You don't have to sit there and like transcribe everything the players are doing. Um, but let's say we use cult fanatic and party gets through. Let's start wrapping up and climax, climax and session. Now we're going to be closing it out. It gives you some monologue that you can get them. The priest's final scream twists into the bell's dying hum, and the bronze relic splits down the middle with a sound like a sigh. And a rush of cold air sweeps through the church, snuffing every candle. Then silence. Fog outside begins to thin, moonlight bleeding through for the first time since you arrived, etc., etc. And then the aftermath is the closing scene. You can have epilogue hooks once you get through and you start to kind of like just look around the table and say like who really liked this story, and if it's like a resounding like yeah we all like the story, we want more. The closing scene, most of the time the AI will just kind of like close the book and say, well, that session's done. If it's like a resounding yes, like the party, like everybody's like, yeah, that was a great story. You can just say like a follow up one shot, maybe something specific that happened in the story. I like you just tell it. Give us some more ideas for future sessions about I don't know, the history of the corrupted corrupted priest. And then also like don't forget the rewards and experience points, like loot and experience points, and don't forget loot and experience points. If it's a one shot, I mean, if you're that kind of DM, I usually say like, hey, yeah, experience, because sometimes players will bounce their PCs from one shot to one shot. I like to do that personally as a player, and especially with it gets kind of dicey when you start introducing actual loot, magic items, equipment. Um, if if it is a one shot, like hey players, like you would get this, but like that's for my sessions. Talk to other DMs of like if you're trying to use this or let them know. Don't forget loot experience points. So now with this prompt, we're gonna ask two things, like hey the players want more, and don't forget loot. All right, so loot, coins and valuables, magic items, and miscellaneous. So they did the loot and experience points first, and then future sessions, you can kind of either as a DM like decide which might be best, or you can take notes on all of it and do one shots for all of them, um, or just kind of put it out to the group. Be like, hey, I've got 5 ideas here. Which one do y'all like the best? Copy and paste, save it for later. Put in your Google Keeps notes. So the priest's past, like what led up to the corruption, dreams and whispers that maybe one of the players are going to be are targeted now for corruption, or a cult revival that they're trying to resurrect that priest to come back, or just exploring the priest's past, kind of like a prequel to the one shot. Essentially, that's so we started a session trying to get it pinpoint to the background, um, and like hopefully subtle to the players. What's the word? Specialties and like what they're trying to build towards. Handled some combat and went through. And so that wraps up the session. Combat and dice rolls. Usually I just like it to tell me like, hey, what stat block can I use for this? Okay, and I'll flip to my book, pull up D&D Beyond, pull up Monster Shuffler, and bam, now I can run it as a DM myself. I'm not asking, whoa, what are the dice rolls for this? It can do that. Like I've used it for that, just during playtesting. For the longer that you go, I think I've done like a 2-hour session and like encountered stalls and loops. But you have to understand what each is. Hallucination is like you're asking it something. It's like giving you something totally like it's not even related. That's hallucination. You just got to get it back on track and say, hey, stop. Like we're not talking about that. We're talking about this. Stalls is when it gets stuck. It starts giving you the same responses. Say, hey, stop getting stuck. Rewrite this. Or if you see like a little, it's not. You can't do it on. if you're logged into account, you would see like a pen, kind of like a pencil thing where you can edit the input. You can just kind of go back because maybe it's like getting stuck on when you're it doesn't understand what you're asking. And also with loops where it's like giving you the same thing, just kind of go back, maybe scroll up a bit. Like, where did it get lost at? Maybe it got lost here. You would hit the little pen error or pen icon, adjust that, and then like try to see if you can go back and figure out where it's getting stuck at. Um, it's not perfect. I mean, it's a free tool, just like any other tool. Other things you can use AI for, you can, if you don't want to go in depth of like having a laptop kind of open at the table, just as a reference, not in front of you as the main course, you can use it to uh, make random tables, random names, and loot. You can help kind of balance homebrew rules, act as a co-DM, like, hey, what's the rule for this again? Um, if you're like up and like if you're like kind of a new DM and still trying to like uh, build your response time to like on the spot rulings. Um, you can fact check. My favorite one is like when I'm building a scenario, I wanted to fact check what I'm trying to do with it to make sure I'm like, hey, does this make logical sense for storytelling? Or even like review plans for future sessions. So like the what is it the if I'm trying to build, okay, the players said they like the priest past. All right, let me do like a two pager, act one, two, and three for what could happen. Um, not so much railroading, but just like, hey, these things can happen. It just depends on how the players approach it. So you could also build sessions from scratch, and just op test. Like you can copy and paste the story or what you're trying to do into it, critically grading ideas, critically grading versus like review. Kind of puts it into not it pushes past the neutral, like looking at it and say like, hey, like be harsh in looking at this, and like tell me what you think. Um, but yeah, that's how you can use AI as a dungeon master. Use it as a co-DM. Use it as like if you're trying to learn how to DM. I've certainly, after a few years of DMing, I've still got things that I'm still trying to brush up on and practice. For me, it's kind of like it's not swarm fighting, it's like army fighting. But whether you're running a one shot or just you need some help in your regular campaign, because to me, one shots are like filler fluff, kind of. Like they're great on a standalone, but in a campaign, to me, a campaign is like just one shot connected into a one shot connected into like, each session. So I think it's a great tool. Try it out. Let me know how it works for you. The document that I was talking from, because I did try to give myself a little bit of a script as a guideline. I'll share in the notes so you can read it for yourself. Um, Other than that, wish you all the best. Roll some d20s out there and get some nat 20s.